just think about the Muslims at this moment who are blowing themselves up, okay, convinced that they are agents of God's will. There is absolutely nothing that Dr. Craig can say against their behavior in moral terms, apart from his own faith-based claim that they're praying to the wrong God. Okay, if they had the right God, what they were doing would be good on divine command theory. Now, I'm obviously not saying that Dr. Craig or all religious people are psychopaths and psychotics, but this to me is the true horror of religion. Okay, it allows perfectly decent and sane people to believe by the billions what only lunatics could believe on their own. Okay, if you wake up tomorrow morning thinking that saying a few Latin words over your pancakes is going to turn them into the body of Elvis Presley, okay, you have lost your mind. Okay. But if you think more or less the same thing about a cracker and the body of Jesus, you're just a Catholic.
Now, here again, I think atheists so often fail to realize that what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. The same point applies to Harris's view. On the naturalistic view, on atheism, plausibly there are no objective moral values and duties, and therefore millions and millions of people can engage in horrible and despotic acts, such as we saw in Marxist-Leninism or in Nazism in National Socialist Germany. And the same question could be posed of Harris. He thinks that the basis of objective moral values is the flourishing of sentient life. Well, I could say, but what if the flourishing of sentient life were not the basis for objective moral values? Then what? Then you would have nothing to say other than your faith-based claim that the flourishing of sentient life is the basis of moral values. It's the same thing that he accuses me of. Now, what I would say with regard to the Muslim is that the Muslim is worshiping a God who doesn't exist. There is no such person as Allah as described in the Quran, and therefore we can be grateful that moral values and duties are not determined by Allah. Rather, moral values are rooted in the essential nature of God himself, which is necessarily good, is not a result of human convention or arbitrary decision, and that his commands to us reflect his necessarily good moral nature. So I think this provides a very firm, non-arbitrary, non-conventional basis for objective moral values and duties, something that I do not think atheism can do.
I was going to talk a little bit more about, well, I'll just mention this. So I hosted a debate or discussion between Matt Flanagan and Joshua Thibodeau on the Euthyphro dilemma, which kind of touches on some of the issues, at least in the first part of this clip that Sam Harris was touching on. It's like these other religions, they believe these things, and if that was true, these would be really horrible things. But on divine command theory, this theory of ethics, it would seem to follow that these horrible things are therefore moral to do, and that just seems really weird. It's sort of an argument against divine command theory. So if you want to hear a dialogue about some of those objections, check out that dialogue that I hosted. Did you want to say something on that?
Not further. I think what
I heard you take
said,
a breath.
Pertains to the point.
Okay, yeah. So there's a lot of interesting things that Matt Flanagan in that debate points out. So I just recommend that you check that out. I did want to say something else though about the end of it. He says that religion can make otherwise sane people believe insane things. And I want to say that science can make otherwise smart people believe some insane things, quote unquote, insane things. And all that we mean by that is that there are some claims that have a very low prior probability. Just on the face of it, they seem really weird, okay? Take a scientific example. Atomic theory implies that most of the things that we interact with are made up mostly of empty space. That seems like an insane thing to believe until you start to gather evidence for atomic theory. In quantum mechanics, there's a thing called quantum entanglement, where two different particles, even we have a lot of evidence now that this happens across vast distances, where two particles can start to do some of the same things faster than the speed of light. There's this sort of spooky action at a distance, according to that's what Albert Einstein said about it. And so there's things that we discover in science that just seem wacky on the face of it. But really what matters, and this is the same thing when it comes to Christianity religion, really what matters is not the prior probability of something, but the evidence for it and whether or not we have good reasons to think that thing is true in the long run.
Yes, key to Harris's statement or argument, and the audience may have missed this, was the word faith-based. He characterized the theistic view as faith-based, which suggests there isn't any evidence for it. But as you say, Cameron, if we have good evidence for the existence of God and for grounding moral values in God, then you escape his criticism. On the contrary, I think it's Harris's view that is faith-based. I can't think of any reason on a naturalistic, atheistic view for thinking that the flourishing of sentient life is somehow morally valuable.